1320 as we welcome in our 1320 Kings Insider.
You said, well, you got a little ambiance back there?
Oh, I do have the neon lights on behind me.
Yeah, you got a little
Yeah.
ambiance
Yeah,
back there.
let's see. Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
That's nice. That's a nice touch right there. Yeah, that's got to stay on every time now.
The red light. I forgot about that. I also have a Newcastle neon over on the other side of my bar. That's funny. I forgot those were on.
One day we'll just get you to turn the camera around so people can say, because I don't think people get, like, when James says the bar, no, he literally just has a bar, like, on like, look at that.
Hell yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Like, and Ham's not a poor schmuck like me who goes back there and pours his own drinks. No. He just gets bartenders that he knows to come over and work for tips, and you get dope drinks all night when you're at James.
That's a hell of a setup right there.
Yeah, I live a good lifestyle up here.
That's why I said after I went to James's house, every joke I tell about Kenny's house and the armed security and the acreage and that's actually James's house. Yeah. You show up at the door, armed security. Who are you here for? I'm here to see James Ham. All right, go through. But don't act up.
They talk about the long driveway guys. I have a long entryway. I'm a long entryway guy.
Yeah, it goes
big
for
money,
a while.
man.
It goes for a while. James, let's start with this because I brought it up at the beginning of the show. I need you to admit to everyone watching and listening that Terrence Davis is playing great basketball right now.
Love it. Terrence is playing great basketball.
All right.
Yeah, I actually I went over to Terrence in pregame on Saturday and said, "Hey, everything good? You ready to step in with Monk out?" He's like, "Yep, I'm always ready." And I'm like, "All right, sounds good." You know, he's like, he's like, whether I play a bunch of minutes or a few minutes, I'm always ready. I'm like, "All right, good show." I'm like, "Hey, hit the first one." He smiled. I'm like, "You're always better when you get that first one to go down." He's like, all right. Yep.
Now, the thing with Terrence that we talked about is he is always ready, whether, he executes and makes his shots or all this other stuff. But he is a guy, and this is why I like him, he's always ready to compete. Always ready to compete. And, you saw it on Saturday, not only with the way he was scoring, but his defense against Luka. Luka, that was almost a definition, no disrespect to Terrence Davis, it just is what it is, of too small. Like Luka would back him down, make a spin move, and get an easy layup. But that didn't deter Terrence Davis from the next time down. Yep, I'm at him. You know what I'm saying? I'm at him. He never got deterred. He's always ready to compete, and that's what I love from having him on the court. And then if his shot's falling, now he's really dynamic if he's got that going on.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I don't think that Terrence has done anything wrong, really, to fall out of the rotation. He is a guy that, like, you have to tell him a couple of times. You got to really work with him on play sets and on rotations and on all that stuff. If the ball is in his hands, he's really good. If he is on ball as a defender, he's really good. Or at least he's good enough. It's the other times. He's learning how to play off ball. He's learning how to play in rotations and all that stuff. So the problem that he has, if I'm really going to point it out, it's not really him. It's that Malik Monk is a more mature version of him. He's a guy with more experience that does the same things that he does. Maybe Monk is a better creator for others. But you can see Terrence Davis has that skill as well. The problem is that very few times you see a team who allows two of at least good teams. They don't usually have two of those guys on the court. And so Terrence has just kind of been the odd man out because when you have players who are high energy, super exciting, big athletic dunkers, and they're a lot of fun, but they also make plenty of mistakes. You don't have two of those guys playing, and he's been unfortunately the guy who's been left out with Monk coming aboard this offseason.
Takeaways from we can go weekend overall. Obviously, we had two very different games on Friday and Saturday, but seeing how the Kings responded on Saturday, What are your biggest takeaways from this short little mini series with the Dallas Mavericks?
Okay, so number one, I'll make this claim right now. That was probably the biggest win in 16 years for that team on Saturday night. And to be honest with you, too, I think that was probably the biggest moment for De'Aaron Fox in his career, where you piggybacked a team. You said, I'm going to take you home. And to me, that was one of the most spectacular performances. He showed that night, anyone who was watching, I am just as good as any of these other All-Stars.
Yeah.
And it just flat out. Like, you want to talk about Kyrie, you want to talk about Luka, you want to even talk about Domas, I'm the guy. And what a performance by him. And I think something that people miss, that was the third game in 4 nights. It was a back-to-back. I mean, the Kings, not only was it the third game in 4 nights, but the first game was in Houston. He's coming off the birth of his son. He's got all kinds of crazy sleep patterns and things going on. His off-the-court life is wild. His last 3 games, he's combined to score 100 points. And that's just like, he's shown up. He figured it out. He locked in and he figured out, like, if we're going to be this team in this time, I've got to go out and be this player. And he basically won 2 games out of the 3. And his performance, 26 points in the fourth quarter and overtime session combined, 8 free throws made in the overtime session, 14 points in the overtime session, which is an all-time Kings record that broke Page's record from, I think it's 2001 in Brooklyn. Yeah, he's absolutely well deserving of that all-star spot, and I'm really happy for him that he had that kind of performance against big time players.
And that's not even mentioning, James, what he did on Friday in the loss. They didn't lose because of him. 33 on the night, did everything he could late in that game to bring him up on both sides of the floor, right? Like, he was scoring, and I thought the defense that he played on Kyrie Irving when they were trying to make a little mini comeback in that fourth quarter, I thought that was potentially, if they could have hit a couple other shots, that would have been one of the stories if they were able to come back and win that game that night. So he is playing as well as he's ever played in his career. He is. I talked about it, I think last week or maybe the last time when we were all together, and it's just like he's at a place where it's all come together. Like, it's his mental is there. He knows exactly what he wants to do on the floor, the spots he wants to get to, the shots that are his shots. Like, he has go-to moves, go-to shots, go-to spots on the floor, and he knows how to get there, and nobody can stop him right now. And then you talk about what he does in the fourth quarter, and now that just elevates the profile, because now you're doing it when them lights are on and you're not afraid, man. I've never seen him play this good before.
Yeah, at the end of the third quarter on Saturday night, I think I even tweeted out the Kings are going to need fourth quarter Fox if they're going to win this one. And sure enough, I mean, my goodness, he was so good. Yeah, just, he's got this ability to go wherever he wants on the court. And it's very few players. And if you really talk, like, Kyrie is that guy as well. He can get wherever he wants. That layup that Kyrie hit late in the game was just spectacular. That's an interesting vibe, too, around that team. I just tell you that the Dallas Mavericks are like a very, very strange experiment that's happening. And there are a lot of players there that were very excited on Friday night that Kyrie was the guy leading him into the game and not Luka. And, he's a guy that, I think eventually there will be a moment where you have to make a decision on, like, revamping rosters and stuff, because I don't think a lot of players love to play alongside him. It's just too much him. And, it's tough.
Let me ask you about, while we're talking about Dallas real quick, Ham, like, did your thoughts about them change over the weekend? Because it did for me. I saw what they could be with the way they played. I mean, you got Kyrie and Luka, and then you got the way that offense runs, where I talked about it earlier, James. They know they want to get the corner threes, and they get them. They get the corner threes all the time. And if Josh Green is hitting, Christian Wood is doing something off the bench, this team, I thought before, we saw them play a game, that the ceiling of what they could be was raised. when they got Kyrie, but I had to see it, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, they got a little something. They got something."
They do. Like if you let Kyrie run the offense for long stretches, I think they're still trying to figure out like their substitution patterns in the first game. And that's what we're seeing. Like the first game with those two together, the Kings really got like a look at it. And late in the game, they're running a 2-man game. Like that was incredible. Like that team has a ton of potential, but on top of that, they got a bunch of pieces they got to fill out. You know, you had good games from JaVale McGee. You had good games from Christian Wood. Yeah, like some of those guys like stepped up, but like those aren't anchors for the franchise that are going to be there long term. The two guys that are going to be there, I think, in their mind, hopefully for their sake, is Kyrie and Luka, and they're going to have to find ways to make them like how to stay on the court together, especially late in the game. And if you're the Kings, like you're smiling, like go ahead, Fox, do whatever you want. You're going up against Luka and Kyrie. On one end, it's very difficult. On the other end, it's not at all. Like those guys aren't great defenders, and you can do a lot of different things against them. So yeah, I mean, we're only seeing the beginning of that team. Who knows where they end up, especially with Kyrie being a free agent this summer. But there's potential there. They just need a bunch of other pieces. They kind of need like Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie back in order to make that whole thing work. They need another scorer. They need another defender, and that's kind of where I thought watching them play on both Friday and Saturday. And
Oh,
shout out to my guy Gary St. Jean. Oh
Yeah.
man, like people should know, Gary St. Jean is one of the absolute gems of the NBA. He's one of the nicest men you're ever going to meet, and his son, Greg St. Jean, who used to be a development coach for the Kings, is like Jason Kidd's right hand man in Dallas. He's an up and coming coach. But to see Gary there both on Friday and Saturday night, former Kings head coach that led the Kings to the 95-96 playoffs, and just really one of the genuine, like amazing dudes you're going to run into.
very good stuff indeed. Going back to De'Aaron, you talk about that performance that he had, and Kenny brought this up earlier, and I couldn't agree more. We're obviously focusing on everything that he did offensively in the fourth quarter and in overtime, which was just spectacular. He was really, really good on the defensive end as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was amazing. The last like 3 games, we've seen him be really, really active. It started with the Jalen Green game. Jalen Green lit the Kings up for what 41 in that second matchup, and like I thought Fox took on the challenge late. Once a guy gets hot and he's hitting everything from the perimeter, it's really, really difficult. But I thought we saw the energy and activity level. Also, I'm gonna be writing on this probably for tomorrow. There's something about this team that I think is unique and different, and it pertains to Fox. They are all bought into fourth quarter Fox.
Mhm.
Even like I asked Keegan Murray on Friday night, I think he had 16 points at the end of the third quarter and never took another shot. He's the guy who got hot in the third and actually gave him a shot in the game to come back. And he's like, "Oh no, the fourth quarter that like we got like the best scorer in the league in the fourth quarter. He's supposed to do that in the fourth quarter, and if I get an open three, I need to hit it. But no, that's what it's Fox time. Like I understand that, and that's kind of the vibe that you're getting from this team, that they're waiting. I don't know if they're either even waiting. They're all empowering Fox to be that guy in the fourth quarter, and it starts at the top, and it goes to every man on the roster. They all see what's happening. They know that he's storing up and waiting for the fourth quarter, and then they're relying on him, and they're setting picks, and they're getting him looks, and they're running with him. They're filling the lanes so he has spacing. It's really interesting to watch a team sort of hand themselves over to a specific player, because like we've never really had that in Sacramento. Even during the Cousin era, there were times where you fed him a whole bunch of times in a row, but we're seeing the team like consciously make the decision to like do everything they can to fill up their stats in the first 3 quarters, and when they get to the fourth, it's like, okay, he's going to take us home.
Is there, because you've seen Fox's entire career, and you've always talked about, and I've seen it, you talk about how confident he is, right? Um, do you see another level of confidence to his game late in these late game situations in the fourth quarter. I look at something as simple as the way it used to frustrate me. And I think he did this while we were on the air. But late in games, when it was fouling time for the other team, De'Aaron Fox would take the ball out. And I'm like, no, you're the point guard. Go get the basketball, get to the free throw line, put the game away. And he wouldn't do that. And now, I mean, he's chomping at the bit to get to the free throw line in every single moment. And that goes into him taking these late game shots and having the confidence. Do you see him with more confidence this year? And I only ask that because I think we've all looked at De'Aaron Fox as a very confident ball player since the day he stepped into Sacramento, but it looks different now.
You know what? It just feels like we saw it early in the season, but he grew up. That's what it feels like. It feels like the whole time, like we've been waiting for this moment where a young player, like every player kind of matures at a different time and a different level, and like you're hoping for like this epiphany moment, and he just seemed to have it. Like early in the season, I thought, "Holy cow, look how good he is!" And we talked about it so many times, like that everything seems to be coming together. It's the right coach at the right time. He just got married. He's got a baby on the way. Now, we're looking at a young father. We're seeing like all of the pieces fall into place for someone who is, like the natural progression of a person as much as it is a player. And I think what we're seeing is just really it's the beginning. He's understanding the responsibility of being that guy and of being the guy that your team counts on to do something like this. And not just for, in a 30-win season, you got to show up, 25 times and do it. We're seeing that he's starting to understand that it has to be almost every night. And it doesn't have to be 30 points, but you got to give something great on every night, whether it's assists or whether it's defense or a combination of a bunch of things. He's finding that, he can be impactful in every single game. It's really fun to watch. It's fun to watch a young guy mature, go from a 19-year-old kid to like a 25-year-old adult and watch every step of his career, every game he's ever played, and start to see like the fruits of his labor and the fruits of the labor of the people around him that have really put so much time and energy into him sort of pay off. It's really fun to see.
Hammer, you agree with our man Alex here on youtube.com/ESPN1320. It all started with that Orlando game winner.
Maybe, but like it feels like all of the games run in together at some point. Like when you're there every day and you're covering every single game like we do, like you could point to even what you're talking about, Kenny. I'll tie the free throw in thing together. Like there's a point where like De'Aaron Fox stepping to the line, needing 1 out of 3 just to tie it and 2 out of 3 to win it against Houston on Wednesday night. That was a shaky proposition. And he stepped up. He hit all 3. Well, look what that looked like on Saturday night where they kept fouling him and he went 8 of 8 from the line in the overtime session. So we're seeing the natural progression of a player, but we're seeing it in these like little bits of pieces where you see a guy take steps and like start to, show just, again, you're just a much different player, a much different person when you're 19 than when you are 25. And he's learned how to, eat better. He's learned how to get better, sleep patterns, and he's learned how to be an adult. And I really do think that it's fun to watch sort of the maturation of a player.
Do you guys remember how the season started? You remember opening night? And I remember because I was going out of town and I was driving to San Francisco to SFO, and I was listening to D-Lo and KC. I was listening to my main man Damon Barling and James Ham talk about the previous night's game, and they had callers call in, and they're like, "This Fox, come crunch time, he plays this selfish ball. He had 3 turnovers at the end of the game, and then what was that little sorry shot he took in the corner trying to play hero ball?" My oh my, how things have changed for some people, because who else would you rather have with the ball making decisions in crunch time? But that's how the season started. Like I'm thinking about like some of the things that have gone on this year. And that was the first game of the season, that game against Portland, where they blew that lead at the end. I think De'Aaron Fox still had like want to say like 11 in the fourth quarter or something like that. But he had 3 turnovers. And he did miss the final shot that went in and out 4 times and popped out or whatever the case may be to lose that game. And a lot of people were questioning, yo, we need a closer. Like, this guy isn't it. Now you've got arguably the best closer in the game today right now.
Yeah, and I'll even bring up this question from Leezy in the chatty house. Do you realistically think the Kings could beat the Mavs in the playoffs? I do. And I'll tell you why. First of all, like I still think the Kings are going to make some adjustments to the roster between now and the end of the season. There's going to be a way for them to add at least one piece. So you could try to clear up some of the issues that you have as far as, defending in the post. But the biggest reason why is because Mike Brown has faced the Mavs and he knows how to game plan for a player like Luka, or specifically Luka. He also knows how to game plan against a guy like Kyrie Irving. He's been there. He knows. So that's why like regular season Mike Brown is great, right? We're excited that he's a guy who's running this team in a different way than we've seen in the past. Even, we can talk about like Wednesday, they beat the Rockets, they flew home. They had practice on Thursday before a back-to-back. Like, that's never happened before. I've never seen that before at all. He's just on them all the time. But I bring this up because he keeps saying, like, these are the things that we have to learn now, so when we get to the playoffs, we actually have a shot. And Mike Brown, at this point, he's not out there publicly saying it, but I guarantee you that Mike Brown isn't looking at the playoffs as like a one and done thing. Like, hey, let's just get there. That's not what Mike Brown's here for. Mike Brown is here to win. And so, yeah, I do think that they will know how to play Dallas in the playoffs. They will have ideas of how to slow down Luka, or even if Luka goes nuts, like slow down the other guys. There's going to be nights where you just can't stop a guy. And one of those guys, but Dallas can't stop De'Aaron. Dallas struggles with Sabonis. If Sabonis doesn't get in foul trouble, you're going to be okay. These are things that like the Kings have that they don't have as well. They don't have another player like Harrison Barnes. They don't.
Yeah, it looked like Dallas got tired at the end of that Saturday night game. You really go back to the beginning of overtime. I think they came out trying to shoot threes and short, and it became pretty apparent early if Sacramento can take advantage on the offensive end, they're going to win this game because they've got no legs left, and that included Luka Doncic, by the way. So I think going back to the Dallas Mavericks conversation, you saw a lot of good in the Kyrie-led Mavericks. I think you saw a lot of good in the Kyrie-Luka Doncic-led Mavericks. But I also think if you're going to poke holes in this deal, in this roster, you're able to do that as well because you have the example of a 52-minute game. Now, granted, there won't be a ton of those, but they lost their legs late in regulation, and that carried over into overtime. You start stacking games against the same team, whether it's Sacramento or another one. I do think Dallas is going to have some difficulties in the postseason. I see a lot of good in them, mainly because of Kyrie Irving and obviously the talent that Luka is. But I also see the faults in them as well.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what's happening in Phoenix, where everyone just like all the betting lines changed so dramatically when the Kevin Durant trade went down. And man, like I know KD's incredible, but KD's also hurt all the time. And he's 34 years old, and he's had an Achilles injury. He's still out with a knee injury. And you gave up like a really, really a star in his role player in Mikal Bridges. You gave up a really good young player in Cam Johnson. And then on top of that, you gave up 4 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps and Jay Crowder, which they flipped and got 5 second-round picks for. And then we hear that Memphis offered – 4 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine making a trade where you get Cam Johnson and 8 first-round picks and 5 second-round picks and 2 pick swaps?
Jeez.
Like, seriously?
What do you do with that?
I don't know, but at the same time, like, there's nothing to say that this will work out at all in Phoenix. KD is fine. Again, Devin Booker's a really nice player. Chris Paul went out and got old, like the rest of us did. And, Ayton is a perfectly fine player, but now they have a bunch of holes in their roster. They gave up 2 starting forwards. And, so we'll have to see how they look come playoff time. But I relate them very similar to Dallas, where it's like everyone pushes all in, but okay, that's fine. That just because you made a big trade doesn't guarantee anything.
James Ham, Kings Beat, ESPN 1320 Kings Insider. We'll come back, James. I want to talk more specifically. I want to talk about Trey Lyles and really that bench overall and the impact that they've had on the team so far this year. And we'll do that when we return here. Dylan with Casey on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Clear. How was your weekend, Hammer?
Good. Yeah, Super Bowl was fun. We got a lot of food. There's a lot of food here at the Ham House. I don't know how that happened. Well, we just kept buying food, I guess. And then other people brought food, and the next thing you know, we have way too much food. But yeah, we had a good time. It was
good stuff.
Yeah. And my my guy Patrick Mahomes got his Super Bowl. So, yep.
That's your guy.
That's my guy. Yeah.
It's about to go crazy. It's about to go crazy in the NBA. NBC Sports is prepared to make an aggressive offer to win back NBA rights after more than 20 years without them.
Wow.
The NBA can't begin formal negotiations with companies other than Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Disney before April 2024, unless they waive their exclusive negotiation rights. Disney is expected to bid on the NBA to keep the games on ESPN and ABC. Apple and Amazon have already expressed interest in buying rights to the NBA, sources said. It's about to go crazy.
The money is going to go wild. The salary cap is going to go wild.
It's about to be great.
Yes.
Man, oh man.
Bring back Round Ball Rock, little John Tesh.
I remember Round Ball Rock. Oh, that's the name of the song?
Yeah.
You know who uses that? FS1. For college basketball.
Okay.
Doesn't hit
yeah. Damn, John Tesh just licensing it off to people.
Doesn't hit the same for Providence against UConn.
Yeah, not the same. Not the same.
I did talk to Kevin Herter yesterday.
Hey.
I said, so you're going to be in 3-point shootout? He goes, nothing official. Big smile on his face. So good for Kevin.
That reminds me. Wanted to ask you. Okay. I'll ask you when we get back, just so you can say it on the air about Malik and what we all think will happen. But
yeah.
I wonder if they would ever do like ABC and NBC being a part of this.
Maybe because the NFL does.
ABC, ESPN, CBS, NBC, ABC, ESPN, and TNT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that is basically what the NFL does, right?
Yeah.
They got what? Yeah,
NBC. It's the same 4. One, and then
they got 4 because they got NBC, Fox, CBS, and ESPN.
Oh yeah.
Plus, I don't know if you guys saw, they also have this issue.
And Amazon.
Yeah, and Amazon. But they also have the issue that the company that ended up with like 20 of the RSNs is failing miserably.
That didn't seem like it was going to work from the start.
Yeah, so you have to wonder, like, does the NBA care that's happening? That the regional network guys are struggling.
The killer for NBC, which it wouldn't matter, I guess, but they don't have NBC Sports anymore. They don't have that channel anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that doesn't take much to fire up another one.
Other games on, but
yeah,
a while ago, a couple years.
No, it's been about a year. Maybe it might have been less than a year. It was relatively soon. But I mean, then they got Peacock.
Oh, premium.
It's not great. No, it's not great.
Did you see who's in the third contest?
Mm-mm.
You want to hear it now or on the air?
Kevin, yeah, you can tell me on the air. I mean, Shavano's in it, I'm assuming. So Kevin,
Oh,
Shavano,
yeah.
Dame.
It's three.
Now you can tell me on the air.
Don't spoil it in the chat. They go down.
I think it's up.
114 before.
I thought it was 112 last year.
Like I have Peacock and I watch it all the time because we watch soccer. So people are like, it's just not a good platform. Like
No, it's not.
There's a couple of the platforms that, like, because I have them all, they just don't understand. They're a mess.
It's wonky.
Yeah, and the WWE network does not help.
Yeah. Well, that and like you can start a show and then if it won't save your spot.
Right.
And then it
Yep.
gets lost in your shuffle. It doesn't like even populate in your most watched shows or whatever. And you're like, oh, come on now. Now I got to go look for it every time. Yeah, people with Dish, they dropped like local a long time ago. I don't understand why anyone at this point is not using Sling or YouTube TV or whatever, because it's $100 cheaper a month.
Hang on, Hammer. We're coming back.
Yep.
Some nerd notes for sports media junkies. Fox Sports PR is pushing out that the Super Bowl scored 113 million viewers. Ranks as the third most watched TV show ever. I think it's a bit of a stretch to call it a TV show.
Is the final episode of MASH number one still? He used to say that forever.
I would think it has to be.
I can't believe it. How could it have more? How the final episode of MASH got more than 113 viewers?
Less channels.
Viewers.
Have you ever watched the final episode of MASH?
No, I used to watch MASH every now and then.
You know what?
Show.
We were talking about this. We were talking about I hate that theme music. Make me cringe. I don't know why, but
have you ever heard
hated it?
The lyrics to the MASH theme song?
No, I feel there's a story behind it, though, right?
It's literally suicide is painful.
Oh,
it
yeah,
brings on many changes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you should probably listen. That's a dark theme song.
Well, that explains why I hated the sound of it. No. No. Yeah, drove me nuts.
It seemingly a dark experience.
Oh yeah, it's it's heavy.
But go ahead.
You guys got to stop saying stuff that makes me look things up in the middle of the show.
Oh yeah.
The series finale. Jesse, do you have the number?
Yeah, it averaged at 105.9 million, and then it peaked at 121.6 million.
That's crazy.
120.
Wow.
It's a show.
Yeah. Super Bowl ain't even close.
It's a show that captured like the feelings of so many people, just like the entire show, because you're dealing with wartime, and yeah, it was wild. Such a great show.
It was a comedy.
Yeah.
That show aired for 11 seasons starting in 1972.
Damn. Wow.
Sorry, let me y'all stop messing with me. Most watched Super Bowl in 6 years, most streamed Super Bowl ever, most streamed event in Fox Sports history. That's a low bar, but I guess put it on here. So 113 million for the Super Bowl.
Wow. Went up again. Nothing I was gonna say. With the
Nash theme song is stuck in my head because of you two jerks.
No, it used to come on channel 31.
Of course, because wrestling was on.
But it would come on late night though.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling wasn't on late night. unless you're on NBC.
No,
for
it'd be.
Saturday night.
I think MASH should be on sometimes in the morning too.
Yeah, my grandma used to watch this all the time, and I watched a ton of MASH and a ton. I've seen every Perry Mason ever. Yeah.
Damien, you want to hear the 3-point contestants?
Yes.
Confirmed?
So Kevin Herter now confirmed for the 3-point contest. We know
Confirmed.
Shavano is in it.
Shavano's in
We
it.
know Dame's in it.
Dame is in it.
And I think that's where the extent of my knowledge of who's in the 3-point
those
contest.
three from the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
Laurie Marketing.
All right.
From the Portland Trailblazers, Anthony Simons.
Interesting. Okay.
And from the Indiana Pacers, number 0, Tyrese Halliburton is in the 3-point contest. Let's go.
Wait. Why?
I don't know.
So there's 2 Pacers in it, in 2 Blazers?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Halliburton in there.
Good for
Hill in there
Tyrese.
going up against Kevin Herter. Kevin Herter, one-man wolf pack.
Okay, Herter beat them both. Beat them both. It's a handicap match. Got to beat them both. Got to beat them both. Come on.
That's funny.
It's the end of
I
the
hope
elimination
Herter.
chamber. Let's go, Kevin Herter.
I hope he finds his shot. Like, this is a good. He's going to be doing nothing but shooting threes for the next 5 days. Like, it should be interesting to see if he can find a shot.
Yeah. Speaking of finding their shot, did that pesky rookie wall pop up again? We saw Keegan Murray, and this was part of the Terrence Davis conversation and part of the conversation about the bench that we'll get into here in just a second, James. But Keegan struggled. That resulted in Terrence playing longer minutes, which I guess is good. I mean, Mike had a feel for the game. He knew he was going to stick with his hot hand. But another so-so outing from Keegan Murray on Saturday.
Yeah, we spoke to him today, and just he's so even kill. He just really needs a mental break, like everyone does. And he talked about it, like everyone needs to get away. This has been really, really intense. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of learning, but it's also been really intense. And just the ability to step away from the game, even if you're to step away from a competitive game. That's not what the Rising Stars Challenge is going to be. It's going to be fun. It's going to be going out and just hooping. But I think his mom is flying out for All-Star Weekend, and then he's going to go catch his sister's game and then his brother's game and kind of do a little family trip and then race back. I think this is just going to be a great opportunity for all of these players to clear their mind and get ready for what should be a really, really wild and competitive final. What is it? 26 games are left.
And the Kings, they still have more games than most, right? Like they got.
I think they're starting to catch up, aren't they?
4 games that they got to catch up for.
Yeah, they're still a little bit behind as far as games played. Especially, I feel like the Clippers have played just a ton of games, and the Kings had. They have
Clippers played 59 games.
And the Kings have played how many?
56.
Yeah. And there was a much larger disparity at one point. I think there was a 6-game difference between games played at one point.
And
so
tomorrow's it, right? I'm not missing one.
No.
Tomorrow's it for the Kings.
I think. Ironically, I think the Clippers play 2 more times.
Yeah, because the All-Star break technically is until after Thursday night's game. So the Kings, they kind of stole a couple extra days here with the schedule.
Yeah, they got a nice long break.
Which is a good look considering on Friday night, Malik Monk goes down with a sprained ankle. So you could get, 3. I know he was at practice today. I don't see any reason why he should play tomorrow. I'd give him that whole All-Star break to recuperate and get that leg, to get that ankle together.
Yeah, we did not see him today at practice. Mike Brown said that he had come in and had shot some with his development coach, but there was no practicing for him. It's interesting. The Kings have been guarded with their injury report. If we knew if this was like a grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3 ankle sprain, it would help us kind of tell you how long he's going to be out. So Mike Brown said he did not think that it was going to be a long-term thing, and he was hopeful that it wouldn't be a long-term thing. But we know it's an ankle sprain, and a grade 3 ankle sprain is like between like 8 and 12 weeks. Like that's how long that is. So a grade 2, you might be able to get back in 3 to 4 weeks. A grade 1, you might be 1 to 2 weeks. Just depends on how you deal with like travel and everything else. I think the one other good thing is with the All-Star break, the Kings aren't going to be flying a whole bunch of places. So it's possible that Malik goes with them to Phoenix, but it's also possible he doesn't. And the fewer plane trips he takes over the next week, to 10 days, the better, because that's where you really can get some swelling and some things go a little haywire.
Yeah, the only thing that would have beat the current Kings schedule is if Tuesday's game had been at home.
Yeah,
they would have been kicking it. Well, talking about Malik here, Hammer, it felt like one of the big differences, if not the biggest difference, in the Friday-Saturday matchup was the performance of the bench. You have big-time performances with Terrence Davis, which obviously we started the show with. And then Trey Lyles is really has been super consistent for this team and has been able to deliver when they needed him. But he also played in the 5 spot once Domas fouled out. And we've started to see that a little bit recently. Is it something you think we see more of in this final 20 some odd games of the season when the All-Star break is over?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't bolster the position at the trade deadline. So I still think, again, there might be a player that makes sense on the buyout market for the Kings that could pop up here in the coming days or maybe the next week, where you could see the Kings kind of jump at somebody that makes, again, they could fill a spot for them, even if it's not a heavy minute spot, but someone that gives you a different look than what you have right now. Players to look at that I've heard, like, very specifically, maybe a guy like Nerlens Noel, who's been caught up in this whole 4-team trade that went sideways, right? So, James
I don't even
Wiseman,
think I knew he was a part of that.
he's not, but he is by proxy. So the Detroit Pistons, that's where he's at right now. They have Jalen Duren, they have Isaiah Stewart, and then they had traded for James Wiseman, and that deal was like put on ice, and then it finally went through yesterday, which was a huge gamble by the Warriors, but one that they almost, like, there's nothing they could do at this point. They're pot committed to that trade, and they can only hope that the league hammers the Blazers for what they did there. That was just some Bush League stuff. Sorry, my ice maker's on today in the bar. Normally I shut it off.
Party at the Ham House. Let's
That's
go,
right.
baby.
I got to be ready for post game here. But Nerlens Noel is a guy that could be a buyout candidate for Detroit, and someone that may or may not fit into what the Kings are trying to do, or at least give them a different look. Someone that can actually block shots and get steals. And as far as players go, he's not one of someone I think is a game changer, but for this team. But it leads you back to, like, the Trey Lyles situation, and, like, Trey has been so good for them so many times. It's not every game, and he's coming off a 2-game stretch where he didn't play a ton and he didn't score at all in the last 2 games, but he just has an ability to come up in big moments. The 3-pointer from the top of the key, the big rebounds. Like, he just has that ability. He's a smart player. He doesn't make a bunch of mistakes. I would really like to see him play more 5 here in the second half of the season, just because I'm not sure that what you get out of the other options really helps you as much as, having more high basketball IQ players who can, like, multi-positional high basketball IQ players like Trey.
Hey, we talked about our main man, Kevin Huerter, being in the 3-point shootout. And as of late, he hasn't been able to hit the 3-ball. It's been a struggle for him. But he still found a way and finds a way to get his 15 points, 16 points on a night. I know you kind of been looking at that, Pam. Like, how important is that for him to still be able to be productive. I mean, he had the big offensive rebound and putback in the game on Saturday. And while he's looked at as a three-point shooter, and that's his specialty for sure, I like that he finds a way to continue to find a way to get those points and be productive, even if the jump shot isn't falling necessarily.
Yeah, you can tell that he understands the jumpers on the fritz. So 15 points, 5 assists, 8 rebounds in the win over Dallas. He had 5 rebounds the night before. He's starting to show that, like, if it's not happening, he's going to go do some other things. He's going to try to go get to the free throw line, or he's going to go in the middle of the key and get a little fadeaway or something to fall. What I like about Herter is, number one, he is 6'7", and I think people forget that all the time, that he's 6'7", because he primarily plays on the perimeter, and you don't see him go inside all that much. But when he gets in the key, he looks like a guy who's 6'7", and like at every gym in America, you're like, hey, that guy's just taller than everybody, and he scores. He has an uncanny ability to be impactful in the middle of the key, is what I'm saying. Like, it's not flashy. You're not going to see him do the Malik Monk crazy thing or what we saw from Kyrie the other night, but it's effective. He looks like a guy who is 6'7" and isn't that far below the rim. And to me, it's just like, you get 6'11" guys that don't look 6'11" when they're standing next to the rim because they can't score right next to the basket, and you're like shocked by it. But he looks like a guy, he plays as tall as he is in the key. So I hope that he continues to figure that out, because he should be more active as a cutter, and the shot's going to eventually fall. But I think, just like every other Kings shooter at this point, he needs a break. He needs to rest his legs. He needs to, shoot a bunch of 3 balls over the next week, but also let his body heal. He's playing a lot of minutes, but also in a lot more pressure situations than he has in a lot of points in his career. He's being asked to do more than he was in Atlanta. And so I think we'll see a different Herter in the second half of the season.
I think one good thing we talk about, whether it's Trey or Keegan going to rebound, Kevin Herter going to rebound. Talked about fourth quarter Fox, Terrence Davis. Like, this team keeps finding different ways to win. And we used these numbers earlier, Hammer. They scored 133 in overtime on Saturday night. They only hit 8 threes. They only had 22 assists. Both of those numbers are a far cry from the numbers we've been touting all year, where Kenny wants 12-plus made threes per game. I want 27, 28 assists or more per game. And the fact that they were able to go out there and beat a really talented Dallas Mavericks team just shows this is what good teams do. You find different ways to win the game. I think, let me double check the stat. Yeah, they absolutely blew the Mavericks out in terms of points in the paint, which is not a sentence we've uttered too many times, if at all, through this entire year.
Like
74 to 46. Found ways to get the job done.
Sabonis was in foul trouble and fouled out. So that's not how you got most of them. What did he finish with, 22? Yeah, I mean,
14, yep.
It does help that Fox is just absolutely money at the rim. He's absolutely money in the mid-range. His floater game is big. Herter's floater game is big. Keegan, we're starting to see him show flashes of some of the other things he could do. Again, Harrison Barnes is really impactful when he goes to the rim. This team has the ability to score in a lot of different ways. And they're back up to number 1 in the league in offensive rating. This is the best offense in the league right now. It's them and it's the Denver Nuggets, who have been above everyone else for the last, almost since the start of the season. And their pace is slowed down, but their efficiency is right there. You wish more threes would fall. They have actually. You can look at the last 4 or 5 games. They've really struggled from the perimeter, and they'll figure it out. Again, give them a week off. Give them 10 days off here to sort of rest up and get ready and let their bodies recover. And I think we'll see big things.
Hey, it feels like there's probably 10 different candidates for this, but Fox's steal and dunk in the fourth quarter last night, top 10 loudest moment at the Golden One Center. You've seen pretty much all of them. Top 10.
Yeah, that was nuts. I mean, again, hat tip to the crowd. We're up to 18,111, I think, every game, or
Keep
18,000.
finding more room.
They keep stuffing more people in here because forever it was under 18,000, right? It was like in the high 17s. All of a sudden now, like the sellouts, and they feel like sellouts. You know, again, I talked to Gary St. Jean about that. I'm like, man, you're in for a treat. This place feels like Arco at this point. Like it's alive. It's starting to develop its own personality as far as a building, and it's fun. Like every single night is just a barn burner and active, and like the crowd is wild. I mean, I heard some boos. Like there were boos on Friday night. The fans were not happy about the 45 to 25 first quarter. I mean, they shouldn't have been.
Yeah,
'Cause it was horrible.
that's bad enough to piss anyone off.
Yeah, and the casuals need
Yeah.
to sit down. We're not booing the Kings right now. Settle down, Casuals. 18.
Calm down. That was me booing. I was booing from the concourse.
18,111 was the attendance on Saturday.
Wow.
Were you waiting for that ice cream on the Concours while you were booing?
Yeah, it was right. It was right. Well, that's why I was booing. That's actually what I was booing. Is the ice cream was so good. There was a long line to get it. I couldn't get it.
Cream.
Oh yeah, man. I mean I think that line went all the way to like the neon lights of like the Shakey's Pizza sign, Tower Records.
As soon as we came up from the media area, got off the elevator, we're like, why are there so many people over here? And you turn the corner and you look, and it was right there by where we sit. It's like, oh, they're all here for the ice cream joint. All right, well, good for our man Mike and the whole crew.
Damien.
Nobody believes you when
It's
you
the
do
truth.
that. Why do you do that? Nobody believes you when you do that.
Because I'm there. I witness it. It's the line to see you.
Just telling lies. Lying to the people who listen to this program. Goodness gracious. Well, the Kings will close out the first part
Will you
of
stop
the season. Will you stop? You know who Gorilla Monsoon is, don't you, James?
No,
Okay. All right.
I did love that halftime show though. That was incredible.
Oh, there you go. All right. Ham for the culture. Right there with the halftime show.
Yeah.
A pregnant woman suspended 100 feet in the air. And only the NFL,
Wild,
baby.
wild.
Only the NFL.
Chain
I kept
down,
looking like she's attached to something, right? Like,
yeah,
she's attached to something.
harnesses.